healthy communication. Now, in this lesson, I want to discuss what does a healthy communication look like, as well as why communication is just vital for a relationship. And then we're going to dive into the skills needed to be an effective communicator and an effective listener. So I want you all to just grab your tea, guys, because this is going to be a lesson you are not going to want to miss out, as communication is just one of the biggest reasons that a lot of relationships fail. And the way that I will be discussing these topics is going to be in the form of me talking to you as if you are a client for some of the parts, and then in other parts it will be me teaching you how to respond to clients. So the reason that I chose this method is because even though you are here to learn how to learn and teach this information as a coach, I just felt it was important for you to just understand, in case this may be an area that you may struggle with in your relationship. And in order to help someone else, you must first understand and help yourself. So I want you to just see it from a client's point of view as well as a learner's point of view. So let's go ahead and get started. So coaches, relationships are just bound to have conflicts, and a conflict in itself isn't a problem, it's how it's handled. But that can either bring people together or it can just tear them apart, and based on how it's handled. Now, there are just times when misunderstandings and disagreements and poor communication can lead to anger and distance, as well as the beginning of a not so strong relationship. So let's discuss, what does healthy communication look like? Now, it is just an effective exchange of thoughts and feelings between people that constitutes healthy communication. Listening and speaking are often alternated. So when a couple engage in healthy communication, it is the idea that the two involved are devoted to the exchange of information. So during a conversation, both individuals need to be aware of their actions. Their body language or their eye contact may indicate that they are engaged and present if they are the speaker. Now, listening to their partner is about hearing what they have to say without interrupting them or keeping their attention on what they need to say next. If they are the listener, now they need to just be open to listening to what their partner or the speaker has to say. And they need to understand that communication is important for a healthy relationship. In the end, maintaining long-term relationships requires healthy communication. Several studies have shown that effective communication can lead to greater satisfaction and interpersonal relationships. Healthy communication can also lead to a greater intimacy relationship as well. Now, conflict resolutions often depends on how you and your partner communicate. During a disagreement, you are just likely to find common ground if you use healthy communication methods. Now, over time, this can strengthen your relationship, and it's undeniable that the best way to communicate varies depending on the situation in which it's being used. Now, the situation may require one partner to be more direct if their partner is unresponsive to a softer communication style when dealing with a serious matter that needs to be addressed. So in contrast, an approach based on affection and forgiveness and validation can be helpful for everyday relationship issues. Now, healthy communication requires knowing how to approach it and how to adjust their style based on the situation. Now, why is it vital for a healthy relationship? Now, when people are just told that they need to communicate more, they often think that this is an open invitation to talk. But there is a complete difference between talking and communicating. Communicating is an art of combining the ability to express your opinions and feelings in such a way as to ensure that the person or the people that you are talking to understand what you are trying to say, with the ability to listen and understand another person's point of view. Over the years, it's just amazing the number of times that people are often provided with information that, if they just acted upon, could have totally altered a relationship, even a career, or even a success of a business. But because of the sheer lack of a person's ability to listen to and to think through another person's point of view, unique opportunities tend to pass them by. Now, relationships are no different to the work environment, other than there are just usually just the two of you. But often, what can be a marriage made in heaven is destroyed by the sheer inability to communicate. Now, the most successful relationships, be it either business or personal, are those in whereby both parties just have strong verbal and listening skills. Many relationship problems begin with poor communication. Couples often feel that their partner should just know what they are thinking and how they feel, so they do not communicate and then wonder why they feel neglected and undervalued. How many people decide not to tell their partner something just because they don't know how to say it, and then a problem just eats away at the relationship until there is no more relationship left? That is such a waste. Just the sheer ability to share a problem can make what seems to be a very enormous issue just a tiny little bleep on a large horizon. So whenever you have a client that feels stressed or don't know what to do, make sure to help them know not to just bottle it up. Talk about it, seek advice, and listen to answers. Don't keep quiet. When they know in their heart a problem has to be aired, and don't put it off until tomorrow. What has to be sorted today? Guys, sometimes tomorrow just never comes. Help them understand. It's how they say something that will ruin a relationship, not what they have to say. The wrong way is just to blurt out something that they know will aggravate or distress their partner. The last thing they want is for their partner to get defensive and storm off or burst into floods of tears. Help them understand that they want the person they are trying to communicate with to be open and perceptive. And in order to be able to achieve this, their timing and their approach just have to be right. Every individual is different. So what will work with one person won't necessarily work with another. And with some people, all they can do is just sow that seed and then let them walk away and work it out for themselves. Given people's individuality, your client needs to learn what is the right approach for them and their partner, just to make sure that they just never start a discussion if they don't have time to finish it. Don't insist on a debate when one of them is off to work, dealing with kids, or just relaxing in front of their favorite TV program. If the timing just never seems to be right, they need to ask the questions, when would it be a good time for us to just sit down and talk? Whatever they do, they should not let themselves appear agitated either in what they say or how they say it. Body language can just as easily put their partner on a defense as well as what they say to them. Even if their partner is looking, for a fight, just help them to understand to not react. And to remember, the first golden rule, approaching defensive with defensive is a sure way of failure. Now, let's dive a little deeper, and I want to just give you some examples as well as make sure you have a very detailed understanding of why communication is just very important in a relationship. Now, the quality of their relationship is essential to committed couples, and they constantly work to improve it. And in order to strengthen their relationship, they do realize that the importance of effective communication, it's just common for couples with healthy marriages to love and respect each other and communicate that to each other in many ways. Now, the key to a strong, healthy relationship is, again, communication. That's why we're here. On many levels, communication facilitates the exchange of love messages between partners. To communicate effectively, one must practice listening skills and express their thoughts and feelings. Verbal messages, what you say, contextual factors, how you say it, and even nonverbal cues, what you don't say, all contribute to communication. You can best understand your partner by listening to them rather than simply listening to the words. Now, a good listener interprets emotions and responds accordingly. How can I become a better listener? By paying attention to both your partner's words and feelings shows that you care, and it increases the likelihood that they will continue to share their feelings. Good listeners pay attention to their partner's words and feelings, conveying a clear message that you matter to me. Encourage your partner to share what matters to them. If you disagree with their statements, continue to listen without placing blame or judgment on them. Do not use this opportunity to attack your partner, as good listening does not include defensiveness. Diffusing current and preventing future problems in a couple's relationship can be achieved through good listening. Listening requires paying attention to your partner's tone of voice, maybe their facial expression, their eye contact, and their physical gestures, along with the spoken words. It's important to pay attention to the nonverbal expressions of feelings. There is a tendency for people to just be careless and assume that they know what the other person is trying to say. Some people just claim to listen while doing something else, but others really clearly just demonstrate that they just have zoned out mentally while pretending to listen. You cannot change your behavior by focusing on what you want to say next or comparing it to what your partner has said in the past. Before responding, give them your full attention and take some time to think. Changing poor listening habits, it's going to be difficult, but it is possible. A good communication style is worth the effort, since listening to your partner shows that you care and you're concerned. It's common, for prior habits and behaviors to stand in the way of good listening. It is just too often that as listeners, we are just too concerned with what response we will give instead of focusing on what the message is that we are receiving. And as a result of our habit of thinking about a response or jumping to conclusions, our ability to hear the intended message is impaired. And sometimes a quick reaction of anger or making fun of what the other person is saying can block out the true message that is being conveyed. The use of negative phrases and words and body language by the speaker will often lead to misinterpretations and discourage good listening on their part. So to encourage the listener to be open and attentive to what you say, use positive or neutral language and body language when speaking. Frequently, people just assume that their partner knows what they need and how they feel, even though their needs or feelings and opinions just have never actually been discussed. Now, too often, this is not the case. Expecting them to know what you are thinking can lead to misunderstandings and hurt feelings, disappointments, and just a whole lot of frustration. And wouldn't you like to just avoid making this common communication mistake, failures? Therefore, the answer to the problem is as simple as it gets. State your thoughts clearly and honestly and positively, and you shouldn't avoid talking about something because you're afraid of what your partner will think of you. Take a moment to think about how something is affecting you personally. When you are expressing yourself to your partner, try not to blame or criticize them for what they are feeling. Any efforts to build a healthy relationship between you and your partner will be undermined if you use statements such as unlike you or it is because of you. Using I messages is an effective way to communicate with your partner. By using I messages, you can express your feelings and tell your partner in what way that the behavior of your partner has affected you. There are some ways in which I messages can express emotions without being offensive to the other person, because they emphasize the speaker's feelings without blaming their partner in any way. It is important to understand that I messages are very different from you messages. A you message is one that places blame and judgment on the other person based on the behavior that they display. It's not uncommon for you messages to trigger defensiveness or hostility in your partner and tend to heighten the level of conflict between the two of you. What do you feel when you hear the words you always or you never? Now, I messages, the mechanism of improving couples communication. I messages help communicate how you feel and why you feel the way that you do. A message that begins with I has 3 parts. I get upset when you criticize my parents because they are so important to me. Now, this describes the speakers, the feeling. It explains the behavior that caused the feeling. The statement, I get upset, follows the steps that we discussed. It describes the feelings, I get upset. It describes the behavior, when you criticize my parents, and it explains why, because I value my parents so much. Communication styles plays a significant role in partner satisfaction in their marriages. As stated earlier, to improve your communication with your partner, it's important to understand some of the difference in communication styles. Now, one partner just may be more expressive than the other. Emotions and feelings are important to expressive people. It is important to them to receive feedback or responses in real time. Someone who is task-oriented or fact-oriented will just rarely express feelings, but will use facts instead of emotions. So, for example, I feel that I am not making enough money. This person wants to be accepted for their viewpoint, not to be moved by emotions. So as the relationships become more complex, the opposite styles may find it just hard to deal with what's going on in the relationship as it becomes more complex. So it's just important to understand each other's communication style and respond accordingly. Intimate relationships require us to just share information about our internal lives. Feeling connected comes from speaking and listening at this level. Effective communication requires learning and practicing new habits. The process of teaching and learning new communication skills requires patience as well as practice. The importance of talking to each other cannot be overstated. You can share your feelings and your thoughts and your fears, your dreams and hopes with your partner in a safe place. Just spend more time talking to your partner. People feel overwhelmed and worries and responsibilities during tough times with the hassle of daily life. Now, it's just often that the last thing on our mind is to just spend time together as a couple. So make sure that you focus on your partner's needs and spend quality time together without interruptions. Even when you are busy and stressed and worried, it is possible to relieve stress even by spending just a few minutes a day talking about what has happened. Consider whether you and your partner could have those difficult or problem-solving discussions at other times when you both are not tired or distracted. Conversations may need to be, initiated by you being the one who initiates the conversation. It is really worth it. And being sensitive to your partner's feelings and needs can help you open the door for communication. Listening to each other's problems will promote communication and strengthen relationships. And taking time to just talk for as long as possible without being interrupted. Make a date with your partner to talk every week, to plan at least one routine or family time. Observe when your partner seems to need to talk about something. You should spend less time watching TV and more time talking. Take a walk together and talk. As you work together on household chores, talk to each other. When traveling or doing activities, talk in a car. Couples need each other in good and bad times. And having good communication does not mean that your family just will never have problems or that your partner will always appreciate your opinion. When you and your partner can communicate effectively, your chances of resolving problems are just much higher. Now, in the next lesson, we're going to talk about walls of communication. See you guys later. Bye-bye.